10 things an avoidant man starts doing when he's terrified of losing you. When an avoidant man is truly terrified of losing you, the change isn't loud, it's quiet, subtle, almost hidden in plain sight. You won't see grand romantic gestures or hear a long emotional speech. That's not how avoidants operate. But you will notice something else, an emotional tremor beneath the surface. Because avoidant men don't process loss like most people. They fear closeness, yes, but they also fear abandonment. It's a paradox they live in every day. So when they realize they might actually lose the one person who's been patient, understanding, and deeply connected to them, something inside them begins to shift. And if you pay attention, you'll notice it, not in their words, but in their behaviors. First, he becomes inconsistent in a different way. Not the usual avoidant inconsistency where he disappears and resurfaces. No, this time, he becomes emotionally available one moment, then strangely distant the next, almost as if he's testing whether you still care. It's his inner war between "I need her" and "I must protect myself." If he starts sending you mixed signals again after a period of cold silence, it's likely not manipulation, it's fear. Fear that he's pushed too far, that maybe this time you won't come back. So he peeks his head out emotionally, just enough to see if you're still there, and then quickly pulls back because vulnerability feels like danger. If you can see this inconsistency for what it really is, a fear of loss, you won't take it personally. You'll realize he's flailing emotionally, not playing games. Second, he starts doing what avoidants hate most, initiating. You might find him texting first, calling without needing a reason, or asking to see you, things he rarely did before. This is major for an avoidant man. They usually retreat into their world when overwhelmed. But when the fear of losing you outweighs their fear of closeness, they take risks. Initiation is risky for them. Means taking a step toward intimacy, the very thing they've built defenses against. But he'll do it anyway, sometimes awkwardly, sometimes out of nowhere. Like a man gasping for air, he'll reach out, hoping it's not too late. Don't mistake this for sudden romantic transformation. It's not a shift into secure attachment. It's a man reaching toward the only emotional safety he knows, you. Third, he tries to prove his worth in quiet, practical ways. Avoidant men are rarely emotionally expressive, but they often show love through action, especially when they're afraid they're losing you. So he might start fixing things, running errands, doing little acts of service he thinks will win you back. He may not say, "I love you" or "I miss you," but he might fill your car with gas, help you with something at work, or show up when you're sick. This is him trying to be useful, because usefulness feels safer than emotional expression. It's his silent way of saying, "Don't give up on me." Watch how his hands move, not just his mouth. In his world, acts of service are love letters written in disguise. Fourth, you'll sense a growing transparency. He begins letting you in just a little more. Maybe he shares something about his past. Maybe he admits he's been feeling lost, or he finally tells you why he pulled away. These glimpses are rare, but powerful. For avoidance, vulnerability is like standing naked in the middle of a battlefield. So if he starts telling you what he's really feeling, even just a little, that's his way of pleading, "Please don't leave. I'm trying." It might not be polished or perfect. It may even come out clumsy or defensive. But if he's telling the truth, even half of it, it means his fear of losing you has cracked open the armor he's worn for years. Fifth, he becomes more attuned to your emotional state. This might shock you because avoidant men often appear aloof or indifferent. But when they fear losing someone they love, they suddenly become more observant. He might ask if you're okay more often, or notice that something's off in your voice. He might try to comfort you in awkward ways. It won't be a therapist-level check-in, but in his own way, he's trying to tune in to your heart before it drifts too far. He might even remember something you said weeks ago, something small but meaningful. That's when you know he's listening now, because he's scared to lose the sound of your voice. Sixth, he fights himself in silence. This one is hard to see, but it's happening underneath it all. When an avoidant man is terrified of losing you, his inner world becomes a storm. You may notice him zoning out more, becoming restless, or suddenly pulling away again. But this time, the distance feels different. Not cold, confused. It's not that he doesn't care. It's that he cares too much and doesn't know how to handle it. Fear of abandonment and fear of closeness are fighting inside him like fire and ice. And he doesn't know which side to choose. If you're witnessing his silence, understand this. Sometimes his silence isn't rejection. It's emotional overload. He's terrified that no matter what he does, he'll mess this up. And that fear often paralyzes him. Seventh, he starts asking questions that reveal emotional curiosity. Avoidants rarely ask deep questions, not because they don't care, but because they're afraid of where the answers might lead. But when he's afraid of losing you, he'll begin to care more about your mind, your emotions, your values. You might hear him ask, "What makes you feel safe in a relationship?" Or, "Do you think people can really change?" These aren't casual questions. They're windows into his fear. He's wondering, can I still become the person she needs? He may not phrase it that way, but if he starts caring about your emotional landscape, it's a sign he's reevaluating everything to hold on to you. Eighth, he lowers his guard with your boundaries. Normally, avoidants resist boundaries. They feel controlled or threatened by emotional expectations. But when an avoidant is scared of losing you, he suddenly becomes more receptive. Not necessarily enthusiastic, but more open. If you say, "I need more consistency," and he actually tries being the key word, it's a powerful sign. He's not doing it because he suddenly loves rules. He's doing it because he realizes the alternative, losing you, is worse than the discomfort of adapting. Fear of loss softens his resistance. He might not get it right at first, but if he's trying, even imperfectly, it's because your absence feels scarier than your boundaries. Ninth, he finally starts talking about the future. This is huge. Avoidant men tend to avoid future talk like the plague. It makes them feel trapped. But if he's bringing up plans, asking about your long-term goals, or picturing scenarios where you're still together in years to come, that's fear talking. Fear of you slipping away. Fear of waking up one day and realizing you've moved on. So he starts imagining a future just to make sure you might still be in it. It might be subtle. A comment like, "If we ever took a trip together," or, "I wonder what it would be like living with someone like you." These are breadcrumbs of hope from someone who doesn't know how to say, "I want you to stay." 10th, he becomes more physically affectionate, but with hesitation. Avoidants are not naturally touchy-feely, but when they're afraid of losing someone, they'll try to reconnect through touch. You might notice him reaching for your hand more, pulling you close while you sleep, or brushing against you during conversation. It won't be dramatic, but it'll be consistent. It's his way of grounding himself, because touch is the one thing he can offer when words fail him. If he starts showing up physically when he used to withdraw, know that he's trying to tether himself to you, quietly, desperately, hoping you won't drift too far. Finally, and perhaps most tellingly, he apologizes, not always directly, but in the only way he knows how. Maybe he says, "I know I've been hard to deal with," or, "I haven't been the best at this." For an avoidant man, even those half apologies are monumental, because to say sorry is to admit vulnerability, to admit responsibility, to admit that he cares enough about the relationship to feel guilt. And that guilt means he knows he might lose you, and that terrifies him. So when he starts taking ownership, even in broken sentences or quiet shame, it's not just growth, it's fear trying to speak the language of love. In the end, an avoidant man doesn't express fear of loss like others do. He doesn't beg. He doesn't pour out his heart. He adjusts. He makes small, clumsy, deeply meaningful shifts. And if you see them, if you see the way he reaches out with trembling hands, not to control you, but to keep you close, then you'll understand this. His fear of losing you isn't weakness. It's proof that under all the armor, he's still capable of love. Scared, confused, flawed, but still reaching. And sometimes that reaching is the most honest thing he'll ever do.